everyone. I am Kia McClain.
And I'm Marcus.
Welcome to Date Affirm the Real, y'all. Did y'all miss us?
You know they did.
Did y'all miss us?
So
What up?
today, after he came back from being off for a couple of weeks, what's our topic for today, babe?
So we're talking about you loving you while in a relationship.
Ooh.
What y'all think about that? You loving you during a relationship.
So when we actually saw you sent that title to me, I was like, what is she talking about? I was kind of like, you, like me as in you, or you as in yourself. I was trying to like figure out what. Basically, I said, what the hell is she talking about?
So, loving you is just what we should be doing, right? Loving yourself. And so I realized that a lot of times in relationships, we oftentimes believe that we should be consumed with our relationship. And so when you get consumed like that and you get attached and you become infatuated and then fear becomes a factor, it can affect your relationship with yourself and in your relationship. And I'll give you a few examples. So if you're in a relationship, you should definitely be having your own separate things going on, right? You should have your set of friends. You should have your hobbies. You should have your things that you do. Because when you get wrapped up with your partner, you've heard the term, I can't live without that person, right? Well, typically that's said with the people who don't already have their own sense of value and worth and love of self. Because anything can happen in relationships, right? If the relationship ends and you're saying, I can't live without that person, is that really necessarily true? How many times have we had relationships that didn't work out? So the fact of the matter is you can live without that person. So we have to be reasonable in our assessment of that, and we have to be honest about the fact that, yeah, you can live without that person. And most definitely you need to be loving who you are first and foremost. I find it very difficult for people to love someone else if they don't love themselves. That would be a difficult task, right?
It's difficult. So there's a couple of things I thought about when you say that. One, loving yourself is something I think you should do prior to entering a relationship. Also, loving, sometimes you forget to love yourself when you try to love too hard on somebody else. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I think that's why loving hard is something that should be non-existent. I think loving pure is what we should be trying to do. Love in a pure way. Not try to love in a hard. When you say hard, like hard is hard. Right? So when you use certain words, you have to be able to understand what that word actually means. I love you hard. Well, first of all, I don't want to do anything hard because that makes it complicated. But I can love you deeply. I can love you genuinely. I can love you purely because I should be loving myself that way. I should be loving myself deeply. I should be loving myself purely. I should be loving myself from a very honest, pure way. And so when we get in relationships and we completely lose ourselves because we're so enthralled in that person, it complicates breakups, it complicates losses, it complicates all of those things. And this is somebody who has had a loss. This is somebody who's had breakups. I've had them both. Many of us have had breakups though. So whether it was a breakup of a relationship or a breakup of a marriage, But when you love yourself, it's a lot easier to be able to maneuver through and cope through that separation. So loving yourself is extremely important. So I want to share a quote with you all from one of my faves, Maya Angelou, and it's definitely something to pay attention to. I don't trust people who don't love themselves and tell me I love you. And I saw this, so I saw the quote maybe a couple of months ago, and it really resonated with me because I find that many people don't love themselves, and then they'll get in a relationship and they'll make that person, well, I'm going to love them. And they don't pour into themselves. They don't concentrate on themselves. They don't know how to do those things because their entire focus is another person. And then a lot of times people will get disappointed and their expectations aren't met because they have poured all of them into someone else rather than pouring it into themselves first. Because when you love yourself first, I believe that what happens is people see that. When other people see that you love yourself, then they're likely not to play games with you. They're likely not to do certain things because they understand I'm coming to a person that genuinely loves themselves. So I can't play games with them. I can't get over on them because they love themselves enough to know that no matter what you do to me, I'm still going to love me. So if you don't know how to love me properly, if you don't know how to love me properly, that lets me know you don't know how to love yourself properly. That's oftentimes what happens because you are so focused on loving someone else and not loving yourself, and you're seeking validation, approval. All of those things are coming out as a result of you not loving yourself. And so there are 6 types of self-love habits that I think that we should explore and talk about. Before we get into that, though, I want to just kind of hit a little bit on you should be doing things for yourself in these categories that I'm going to be talking about without feeling guilty, without feeling like I can't do this because I should be doing everything with my partner. You shouldn't feel like, well, I don't want my partner to get upset that I want time to myself. I don't want my partner to get upset that I don't necessarily want to spend the evening with them today. I want to go hang out. Whatever that may be, whatever it is that you need to love on yourself for the day. I have a ton of self-care habits, and so they range from, I'm just going to lay in the bed late to I'm taking a solo trip. So it could range. It could be the smallest of things, or it could be, a larger thing that you're doing for yourself. And so I'm going to pause there and see if anybody has any comments or if they want to talk about how, like, what would you rate yourself in terms of self-love? Let's start there. And between 1 and 10, would you rate yourself? And be honest, even if you don't want to put it in the comments, think about it in your head. Be honest about that. Where do you think you are in loving yourself, whether you're single or in a relationship? Because this conversation goes for people who are single, in a relationship, married. It doesn't matter.
I'll go first. I think I'm more of a 6 or a 7. Cause I know I need to do better. I also, cause there's things I say I want to do and I don't do, or I feel I need to always include you in certain things. I mean, not to say you require that. You'll tell me, go do it, go. But the way I know it's a 6 because my mindset. I'm always thinking, okay, would she want to go with me here? Would she do this? It's like I constantly want to think about what would you need. But not to say I don't do things for myself. First, like one of the things I love to do is go to a movie, and you and I have different movie tastes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, hey, babe, I'm going to the movies. You be like, have fun. Well, I'm going to smoke somewhere. All right, go have fun. So I know how to do it, a lot of things, because when I was single, I was doing all that things by myself. And I know you're supposed to move different when you're in a relationship, but you're not supposed to forget yourself while you're in a relationship. And that's what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you have to remind yourself, okay, don't give so much of yourself that you don't have nothing left.
Exactly.
I can't give you something out of an empty cup.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta take care of myself. And like solo trips, I think I should do more, but I'm on the road a lot. So, but
Yeah.
it does get confused with work. But this is why you notice I'm more like, say, hey, instead of being back on Friday, I'll probably be back on Sunday. I'm gonna take a day and just go screw around because it's the area I want to be in. For instance, I like TikTok foods and Instagram foods. Like, oh, I want to go eat there, and that's not your thing. So, but I think I'm a strong 6, creeping on a 7, shooting for an 8.
Okay. Well, once I start to share some of the self-love examples, I'm not going to go through. There's a chart. And actually, this is something that my therapist gave me a while ago, and I'm just going to share that with you all. And see, where you are. I can't see any comments, so I don't know that. So you'll have to handle that part because I don't see any comments. So
we don't have any comments at the moment, so you just keep on going.
Okay. So let's talk about self-love here. Let's talk about it. So there are 6 different types of self-love. We often say, I love myself, right? Which you should say. But do you know that there are 6 different components under self-love? And so there's psychological, there's physical, there's professional, there's personal, spiritual, and emotional. Okay? And so I'm going to just give you some examples under each one. We're not going to go through all of them because, like I said, there's quite a few. So under psychological, do you self-reflect? Do you go to therapy? Do you journal? Do you practice asking and receiving help? That's under psychological. Okay, those are just a few examples. Under physical, do you take regular visits to the doctor? Do you eat healthy? Do you exercise? Do you get enough sleep? Do you get me time? That's under physical. Under professional, do you take time for lunch? Do you set boundaries at work? Do you leave work at work? And under personal, do you learn who you are? Do you sit by yourself, understand things about you? Do you figure out what you want in life? Do you plan short and long-term goals? That's under personal. Under spiritual, do you self-reflect? Do you go into nature? Have you found the spiritual community? Do you sing, dance, etc.? And under emotional, do you do daily affirmations? Self-love is under emotional. Do you laugh? Do you say, I love you? So those are just some examples under those various categories. So are you taking care of yourself? Are you loving on yourself? So, of course, there's much more under each wheelhouse. But when you think about those things, you should be doing at minimum 1 to 2 of those per day for yourself. And so when we oftentimes say, oh, I love myself and I love myself and I really, really, really love myself, do we really love ourselves? Because a lot of times we don't care for ourselves at all at work. We let people run over us. We don't speak up for ourselves. We don't ask for promotions or raises. We don't set boundaries. We don't say, no, I'm not doing that. We don't do the right things. And that's not taking care of yourself at work. Do you take time out to just go outside and stand in the sun? Go to the park. Walk through the park. Do you take time to read or do audible? However you prefer, reading or audible. Do you learn? Are you taking classes? Are you trying new things? So it's really about under those 6 things that I mentioned under the wheelhouse, there's a lot of things. And I think sometimes we only think about one category, right? Because I know I did. I remember when my therapist brought that up to me and I was like, oh yeah, I love myself. And she was like, oh, okay, well, let's look at this wheel and let's talk about it. Let's talk about, are you really loving on yourself based on this wheel? And I was like, ooh, I thought I was doing a lot more.
You know, because that goes back, it's like everything. We need to be taught it. You know, there's things that's instinctual, but I think that's more needs to be taught because today was the first time I ever heard of those 6 categories. Mm-hmm. And I'm as you're going through them, I'm thinking like, okay, do I kind of do that? Do I do that? Yes. Do I do that? No. And so it's like, or I could be a lot better. So now after listening to those 6 categories, my 6 strong 6 going up to 7 kind of downgrades. You know, it's like, okay, I could be doing better in this category. This, the spiritual and the reflections, I need to do more, and I need to also customize it to me.
Exactly.
Because I listen to the wheel. I hear some customizations that maybe more in your wheelhouse and not mine. And I was like, okay, if I could tweak this be more to me, and it'll make me feel at my best.
And what you have to understand is there's a long list of things. I didn't speak on the entire list, and of course, it's not going to, everything on the list is not going to be you. But as you said, you do have to customize it. You have to even understand that you need to customize it. We think of self-love and self-care as going to the nail shop. Men think about it as, I went to the barbershop, or I went to the cigar lounge, or I went to go hang out and play golf. Those are the things that we typically think that self-care and self-love is. However, it's 6 categories of self-love. It's 6 categories. So, and I just read those to you. So for those that just joined, I'll repeat that again. It's psychological, it's physical, it's professional, it's personal, it's spiritual, and it's emotional. So all of those things comprised is self-love. And some of the things that you're doing is self-care. But all of the things in that wheelhouse are things that you're doing to show yourself you love yourself.
Oh, wow.
So some of the things can be, okay, this is a self-care thing, but it's ultimately about self-love because the wheelhouse is called the self-love wheelhouse.
See, we're getting confused with self-care and self-love, and that's easy.
Yeah, so how are you...
interchangeable, which is not.
Yeah, so how are you loving on yourself to provide that self-care? You see what I'm saying? So it's a life balance. That's why I said you should be doing 1 to 2 of these things daily. Of course, we're not at work on Saturday and Sunday, most of us. But for those that are at work, you should be practicing at least 2 things under that wheelhouse that I read out. And I didn't read the full wheelhouse. You probably can Google it and see the wheelhouse I'm talking about. So I'll read some at the bottom. I read some at the top. So under psychological, do you think about your positive thoughts? That's under psychological.
Wait a minute. So
do you think, not not your positive thoughts, I'm sorry, your positive qualities.
Oh, okay.
Do you think about your positive qualities? Do you celebrate your positive qualities, basically, is what they're saying. Do you read a self-care book or a self-help book to help you? See, the thing is, I think we stay in these boxes and we don't try to grow our minds. It's like, this is what I know. This is safe for me, so I'm just going to stay in that box of what I know. But in order for you to fully love yourself, you have to be able to do these things for yourself. I need to say, Kia, you are good at such and such and such and such. The reason why I want you to think about something. When someone pays you a compliment, what do you usually do? And I'm going to ask you because you're sitting right here with me. But people that want to comment, they can share that. What do you usually say or do? What is your response when someone compliments you?
You say thank you and you return the compliment.
No. I'm not saying what should you do. I'm asking you, what do you do?
That's what I do.
Okay. So I've seen you with people give you a compliment and you actually throw it off. You blow it off. You're like, oh, no. You did it when we were in Charlotte. My friend said, oh, you're smart. No, I'm not.
I don't remember that.
You said, no, I'm not.
Damn.
And I said, oh, he's downplaying himself. So when someone pays you a compliment, you should never be the person that knock yourself down. Because if you do that, that's showing people you don't love yourself. I ain't trying to put you out there, babe, but you know, this is what we're doing.
Okay.
So you have to be able to receive that because you should feel good about yourself. You should be able to receive positive things that people say about you. Because if they're saying something positive about you, that means you believe it too. Now, I don't like for people to go on and on and on and on. That makes me feel uncomfortable. But if a person is generally saying, just paying a compliment, and I'm not talking about a physical compliment, I'm talking about any kind of compliment. Someone pays you a compliment and your first thing is to drop the compliment down, to talk negatively about yourself or not to honor yourself, then you're lacking self-care and self-love in that category. So it's not a horrible thing, but it is something to notice, to work on. I used to do it. So here's something that I used to do. I would get paid a compliment on something I had on particularly. This would happen to me. I remember I did this so often. Somebody would say, that's a cute outfit. I would say, oh, I just got it from Goodwill. Or I just got that from Walmart. Or I just got that from... I would downplay it. When what you should be doing is receiving the compliment. If you're saying, I dress to impress, I dress to look good so I can feel good. If you're saying those things to yourself, when other people say it, there's no surprise, right? There's absolutely no surprise. So that's what I'm talking about. Having that self-love so that you're not shocked when somebody pays you a compliment. And so as it pertains to relationships, now I'm going to take it into a relationship. If we're in a relationship and I pay you a compliment and you don't know how to receive the compliment and I see that, I'm seeing that you're lacking self-confidence, which means you're lacking self-love. You understand what I'm saying? If you lack that awareness, the confidence, then that part of you is lacking some self-love. So I'm going to read some from on the bottom of physical. Do you turn off your cell phone? That's physical. Do you take a walk? Do you take bubble baths? That's under physical. So I read a few on the top. I haven't read the middle, and I'm not going to read the middle. Now I'm reading the bottom. Do you do those things on the physical side? Professionally, do you take your vacation days? Do you take your sick days? So what happens, these are all things that can transfer into your relationship poorly. If you're not taking vacation time, you're not taking sick time, The stress of your job is going to come home, right? Who is it going to affect? Even if you're not in a relationship, if you're single and you're stressed out from work, when you come home, what happens? You're going to treat your partner bad. You're going to treat yourself bad because you're not taking care of yourself. You're not loving on yourself. If it's all negative, if it's bad, 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 and you don't take, at the beginning I said, do you take work home with you? That's on the list. Because everybody takes work home with them. I know. I come home and I complain and I tell Marcus all kinds of things. I am very guilty of that. But that's also an indicator that change may need to happen, right? And so if you have to also be aware so that you can pick up on those things. Okay, well, this isn't necessarily healthy for me because it's going to affect my mood, my happiness, how I'm loving on me. If I'm putting up with this at work, then that means I'm going to put up with some other shit. Right? And then under personal, do you spend time with your family? Do you learn something new? That's under the personal side. And under spiritual, do you volunteer for a cause? Do you foster self-forgiveness?
That's a good one.
That's under spiritual. Right? How many times do we beat ourselves up about something? And if you can't practice self-forgiveness, you certainly can't forgive other people, right?
That self-forgiveness is, I think that one is going to resonate with a lot because we're not perfect. We make mistakes, and just listening to the wheelhouse, we're making a lot of mistakes of things we're not doing. So, like you said, don't beat ourselves up. Forgive ourselves. Let's move forward. Learn and see what we can do to make it better.
Yeah.
I'm not going to beat it myself because I just downgraded to a 5. Now I know how to get back to a 6 and get back to that.
Exactly.
Get up to that 8. I'm learning the steps because before it was more ignorance.
Yeah.
Now I know I can see, okay, what I can do better. And some things I was like, okay, and I'm already saying that, okay, I start not knowing this wheel or these 6, I started doing that. Just like say professional. Do I take vacation days? Remember, just like I got vacation days coming up and one's passed. So we had something to do, and the plans fell through. What did I say? Still taking my days. Mm-hmm. Ain't no use trying to say I'm gonna relax. I'm not gonna do nothing.
Yeah.
So So that's one of the ways. So I'm gonna practice on that one more. Because a lot of times we try to save this and we'll say we don't have this, we don't have money for this, so I'm not going to waste these days, and they end up going falling off and you lose them.
Yeah.
You know.
And what you just did was awareness. That's self-awareness, right? Because I think what happens is when we hear we're not taking care of ourselves like we should, then we start to beat ourselves up, right? But then when you hear under spiritual, I need to be practicing self-forgiveness, right? You hear that and then you're like, I'm not going to beat myself up. But now I'm at least aware. This is why I talk about journaling all the time. How do you know what you feel when you don't write it? Because feelings are fleeting. Feelings are fleeting. You need to write it out so you can go back to it. On the emotional wheelhouse, this is a Mary J. Blige song. Do you say to yourself, I'm gorgeous, I'm handsome, I'm whatever? Do you look in the mirror and acknowledge that about yourself? And do you practice forgiveness with others? And that's going to be hard to do if you don't practice it with yourself. And then I've already read the one for psychological. Couldn't get that out. So y'all get the point. And the point of what I'm trying to say is, if we don't practice those self-care routines, it doesn't equate to us loving ourselves because we're just trying to constantly please other people and we're not taking care of ourselves. And then the other person is like, Well, I just need for you to love you first so that you can genuinely, authentically, deeply love me, because I want to see you genuinely, deeply, and authentically love you. I'm going to read that Maya Angelou quote again. Maya Angelou said, I don't trust people who don't love themselves and tell me I love you. I think like that quote is so deep to me because it's true. How can you love me when you don't love yourself?
So, you gave a lot to think about. You know, I don't do heavy, but I think that kind of touched on the heavy side. But I want that challenge because there's things I know I can do better. And I'm like, okay, I want that 8. I want to get to that 8 fairly soon. Now, can I say I can do 1 to 2 each wheelhouse a day off the top? No. I think it has to get to a point where it's instinctual. We're learning it now. Now we can get to a point where it's instinctual. I'm instinctually doing this every day. I'm doing this self-love tactics, I could say, every day. You know, I love myself, or look in the mirror, or even accept these compliments. You know, also I think it's also a unteaching or unteaching of certain things.
Unlearning of certain things. Yeah,
that'll work too. Like even accepting compliments. You know, is understanding is not trying to be humble, but just receiving it.
Right.
You know, a lot of times we think it's humble, but it's not. It's being confused with something else.
Exactly.
So now we downplaying something that we should be receiving.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. I think, and you did it and didn't even realize you did it, right? So, and because that's the thing, we become habitual with things.
Call me habitual.
And we become habitual with things, and then that's the pattern, right? Because habits create a pattern. And so I'm not being my cousin Shamika, who's the therapist, but I do share a lot of the things that come out of therapy that I've been doing for many years. And that is, we oftentimes want to risk ourselves sometimes, even though we'll complain about it, right? Or we'll feel some kind of way about it without complaining about it. We'll risk our own selves to benefit other people.
And
that's not self-love.
And to me, that kind of goes back to when you first started off. And during breakups, it becomes resentment. I did all this.
Exactly.
I didn't do this for myself because I was too busy doing this for you.
Exactly.
Now you're becoming hurt and angry, and it's harder. It make it harder for your healing process.
So as you see, it's all intertwined, right? These are all puzzle pieces that we're really talking about, because we really want to focus on us having healthy relationships with ourselves first. If you're single, have a healthy relationship with yourself first. Because if you're not taking care of yourself, if you're not loving yourself, you're going to get in a relationship and you're going to say, out of fear, I need to do all of these things with that person. Out of infatuation, I'm going to do all of these things with this person. And you're going to neglect yourself. But if you're already practicing self-care to show up as loving yourself, if you're already doing that when you're single, you will continue doing that when you're in a relationship. Hence, last week, I took a solo trip. Granted, it was only 36 hours, and Marcus was working out of town anyway. But when I said to him, hey, I'm taking me a solo trip, it was almost an expectation from him, because I already talked about, hey, I like to do things sometimes on my own. I like to explore. I like to move at my own pace. I like to not have to consider other people sometimes. Some people call that selfish. It's not selfish. It's selfless. You're supposed to do those things. Yesterday, he said he was going to hang out. I said, go. Enjoy. When he said he was leaving that place and going to go to a different place, I said, when you leave, can you pick me up something to eat? And don't not do what you want to do. Continue doing what it is you want to do. Because we have to have those moments and those times to ourselves. Even riding in the car by yourself, that's reflective moments. That's quiet if you don't want to listen to music. That's your time. We should all be having our time, whether we're in a relationship or not. But if you're in a relationship, you should particularly be trying to take care of yourself. I cannot be of any good to him if I am not taking care of myself. If I don't rejuvenate, if I don't do the things that I enjoy doing, I'm going to feel overwhelmed. I'm going to feel tired. I'm going to feel maybe grumpy. But if I show up loving me every day and doing 1 to 2 things in that wheelhouse every day, he gets to reap the benefit of me loving me first. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. You know, like I was saying, it's almost like you gotta keep your cup full so I can get to run off over type deal. You know,
and not kind of, you do.
Yeah.
You have to keep that's exactly it. You have to keep your cup full, and because sometimes I do 4 or 5 things on this list under one wheelhouse. So if I'm taking care of myself to that degree, and then I'm doing 1 or 2 under the other wheelhouses, all you're getting is the love that's pouring out of that. There's nothing but love in that cup. So the person that you're in a relationship with is getting the good, the best expensive. You know, you go in the store to get water, bottled water, they give you the most expensive distilled
you ain't right,
or whatever water. You get the good water. You're not getting that old $2
water expensive
for a 12-pack water. You're getting the good, that spring. You're getting the good water. You're getting the good. That overflow is the love water. That overflow is the gentle water. That overflow it's all of what I've put into myself. So the person you're with is reaping the benefit of you taking care of you and loving you. Extremely important.
So I think we should challenge ourselves. If we could, I challenge everybody to just share with yourself. Look at those 6 categories, and just write something that you would do to make you that for yourself to fit in those categories.
Yeah.
What can you do spiritually? You know, it ain't gotta be a long list. Like me, I'm just starting off. Maybe 1 or 2 in each category, and I can expand from there. Because it's a learning curve. It's a learning challenge. I say. I won't say it's curve. It's a learning challenge, and to do better, you gotta know better. I have to know how this works, how to do it, and what expectations I should put on myself to achieve it.
Yeah.
You know, I have to fill my cup so you can get the excess. So you get the excess.
Yep.
You know, what am I perceiving really happiness or self-love, or is just an illusion? You know, sometimes we say, "Oh, I'm happy, I'm good," but it's not. It's surface level. You don't realize.
Exactly.
You don't realize like I still got some things going on I need to address, but you're so accustomed to it, it feels normal.
Yep. And so I'm glad you're saying that, because I told you guys earlier when we started, when my therapist asked me that question years ago, what would you rate yourself? And she said between 1 and 5. What would you rate yourself? I was giving myself 4s for everything. And she was like, okay. She gave me the categories, and then she gave me the wheel. And I started reading the stuff, and I was like, oh, 2, 1, 2, 3. That was me. I had to be honest about it. You can't correct what you're not honest about. Right? Can't correct what you're not honest about. And I had to be honest with myself and real. And that's why it's important. It's 2 things I always talk about. Therapy and journaling. Because what I got out of those 2 things is there is no dollar amount. There is no dollar amount that I can put on the value of those 2 things. So I will continue to talk about it and tell everybody that you need therapy and you need a journal. I will never probably stop going to therapy. I probably will never stop it because I'll probably change how much I go from here and there, and I've done that. But I'm so aware now that I know when I need to go every week. I'm so aware now, I know when I need to cut it down some. I'm so aware now, I know when I need when I talk about the categories, I know which ones to pull from. And so, Shamika, I hate you missed the beginning of this because I was talking about the self-love, self-care wheelhouse. And so, of course, you know about that. And the 6 types: psychological, physical, professional, personal, spiritual, emotional. And I just went through a couple of the examples on those wheelhouses. And again, if you don't love you, it is going to be extremely complicated to love. I'm not saying you can't love another person because I see it every day. But what will happen though is they're not getting the good spring water pour over. They're getting the water that's like the $2 for a 12-pack. And you don't know where you don't know where they got that water from. They might have poured it out the faucet and just put it in some bottles for you. I want the spring water carryover. I want you to love yourself so much. Fill your cup up with the spring water so that when the spring water pours over, I'm getting that good water. I'm not getting the rough water, the dirty water, the water that's been through this and this and this and this and this and it wasn't filtrated. That tap water, I don't want that. Don't pour the water out the tap and then try to hand it over to me and be like, here, baby. I don't want that. I want you to love on you so much that the spillover that I'm getting is the spring water. It is the good water. Because you're genuinely loving yourself. When you genuinely love yourself, you are going to be an overflow of the good water. Your partner will benefit from that. If you're single, you are walking around spring water, and people are going to see that. People are going to see that's good water over there. That's not that dirty water. That's not the water that's been in the mud. Because they can see that. So they see the good water. They see the dirty, muddy water. And this is not to say if you're walking around with dirty or muddy water that you can't filtrate that. Because you can. So use the tools that you have. Some of you all aren't going to therapy. But we're sharing some stuff that, again, I'm not a therapist. But I do be sharing what I get from therapy with people, and in hopes that they'll go to therapy, but also use some of the tools that I'm sharing so that you are having a more fulfilling relationship with yourself first that you can in turn have with your partner.
So, once again, that was kind of deep. And to me, when you say you filtrate the dirty water that's overflowing, wouldn't that go into forgiving yourself? Mm-hmm. When you start forgiving yourself, that water gets cleaner.
Exactly.
Start tasting better. Right. So I want to get this will and I want to print it out. I think we should put it on the wall somewhere. Not the bathroom, because nah. Put it on the wall somewhere, because I put it maybe next to the TV. That's where I'm most likely to see it.
Well, you put it wherever you want, babe.
Oh, you gonna share it with me?
I just said put it wherever you want. What part of that wasn't clear?
The mud water.
Oh Lord.
My bad. The water a little muddy. But in all fairness, looking at that, I'm not giving you the best water. I'm not giving you the best water.
And I can forgive you for that.
I can forgive myself.
Yep.
Yeah. So I want you to drink my water.
I'm ready for the spring water. You getting all my spring water?
I mean, yeah.
Well, most days I can't. Some days that water be dirty. Shit.
I ain't want to say nothing.
I ain't gonna lie. Look,
I ain't gonna put it out there.
You know I'm gonna be transparent. I had to think about that. Like, girl, come on now. Yeah. You ain't no spring water every day now. Shit.
But majority of the time, your water is fresh and clean and spring, Irish clean and fresh. You got that Voss.
I do have good water. I ain't gonna lie.
Get that good water.
I got that good water. We talking about water, y'all. Water.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so that water's good. Hey, we talking about the back. So one thing I was gonna touch on real quick, because that was so fun, and we was talking about trips, and that's how I'm just gonna throw this in there.
Mm-hmm.
When your partner takes a trip, by themselves or with other people, do you feel it's appropriate?
Yes.
Because I hear a lot of things on social media, and even people I know will say, no, they don't need to go by themselves, because that's just an excuse for them to be free and be freaky with somebody else.
Well, specifically, we're talking about the conversation about somebody said that they didn't want their lady to go on girls' trips.
Right, and so to me, I think that's just stupid as hell to think like that.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say stupid as hell, it's when I'm speaking of the fact that I have all the confidence in our relationship and my partner, I shouldn't have to have those kind of thoughts. If you saying you're trying to get away to get your mind right, get your self-care, your self-love intact, go for it.
Mm-hmm.
Only thing I should ever be worried about, are you good and are you safe?
Yep.
Those are two things I should be worried about.
Mm-hmm.
Not if you're going to see somebody, meet somebody. So now I'm worried about that. I'm taking away from my self-love.
Exactly.
I don't know what category it fits in.
Well, you shouldn't be with a person you don't trust, right?
Right. So what I'm just saying with that is, let my self-love also translate to me loving you, and also I think with me completing all that self-love, I have more confidence in us. I have more trust in us, because without that self-love, I can't have trust, a true trust.
Because do you trust yourself?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do I trust myself?
Yep.
So I just something I wanted to touch on that, because I thought about it. I was like, let me talk to her about that. I know how I feel, and I know she probably feels the same way, but I want to make sure we both on the same page.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. It's interesting when people say, I don't want my partner to do this, or I don't want my partner to do that. Of course, there are very specific things that fall under that, but I don't want to control the person I'm with either. I have no desire, because I don't want to be controlled. So, and I don't even always control myself in terms of, you know what, on a whim, I want to just go do a drive. And that's something I used to do all the time. I would just get in the car and drive, because that was something I did as a kid that was therapeutic for me. When my mom would say, come on, y'all, we're going to go for a ride. We didn't have a lot of money, so she couldn't really take us nowhere. So she'd say, get in the car, we're going to ride. We'd ride in the car. We would sing songs. We would play games. I would count how many yellow cars I saw. I would try to see how many license plates number I could memorize. So my psyche, that's not on the list. That's not on the wheelhouse, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you talked about customize, that's one of those things. I customize that for one of my self-care. So that falls under the, with the 6 wheel, it falls under personal for me. That's something I do for me. Ride in the car, just listen to, look, I love jazz. And typically, people around me don't like it like that. So I'll just go ride and listen to my jazz and blast it. Let my windows down and blast it. And listen to it the way I want to listen to it. When I did my self-care trip last week, if I wanted to lay in the bed longer, I could. There was no disruption. There was no moving. There was no the TV going on, or I have to go in the other room because he's in the bed and I got to be respectful, or he's in the room and he has to be respectful. It was, I got to do what I wanted to do in the time I wanted to do. And that's what it's about. We typically go left when we think about those things. What you going there for? What you gonna do this? That's what some people might think who's in a relationship with somebody. Why do you want to take a solo trip? Well, because I just want to do what I want to do, when I want to do it, and how I want to do it, and
it's a balance.
Yeah,
it's a balance.
You might want to catch the trolley. I might want to walk. So all of those things are. That's part of it. And hopefully just by having this conversation, it's thought-provoking for us. It causes us to stop and think like, am I really loving me? Am I really loving me? Because so many people say, I love myself. I told my therapist years ago when she presented this to me, oh, I love myself. I'm at a 4. On a 1 to 5 scale. No, I wasn't close to a 4. But guess what? When I at the end, when I realized that she saw my whole body, like everything changed. My body posture just dropped. I beat myself up like, dang, I thought I was at a 4. And that's what she hit me with. Oh, so you're not going to forgive yourself? It's okay that you're not at a 4 like you thought you were. Now you know how to get to a 5. So work on getting to the 5. Put your focus there versus putting your focus on, well, dang, I'm really at a 2.5. Put your focus on, I'm at a 2.5. And I'm going to implement something new every week, every month, every other day, however it is you need to do it. And start journaling so that you can go back to it and see. How do you know how you've advanced? When you go to school, don't you get an advancement? How do they grade you? How do they move you to the next level? By what you've written, by the work that you've done. Now we are adults moving through life ourselves. If you don't write out stuff, how are you not necessarily grading? How are you monitoring your growth? How are you monitoring your non-growth? How are you monitoring, this is where I want to be? One thing I'm concerned about is losing myself in a relationship when I get one. And, well, cousin, you already know what to do. But, therapists need therapists too, right? So, you already know this about yourself. Self-awareness is dope as hell to me. Because self-awareness is that thing that says, hey, look, Shamika, Kia, Marcus, whoever, Janelle, I am the person that knows that I have this particular characteristic or trait. But I'm going to forgive myself and I'm going to work on that. You understand what I'm saying? I'm sorry, y'all. I did kind of turn this into therapy by sharing my therapist experience years ago, but I thought that this was going to be a vital conversation for us to have, because many of us are in relationships, or we get in relationships, or we're in relationship with ourselves, and we're not giving ourselves the good water, so we certainly not giving other people the good water. You giving people murky shit.
So let me ask you this. And all we be constantly saying we. It's all right to say I sometimes.
Of course.
You know,
but in this instance, I'm saying we because I still do that. Like I said, I'm not a 10 every day.
Well, when I say that, I mean me and you gonna go do this. Me and babe do this. We gonna do this. But sometimes I just need to say, right. I'm going to go do this.
Right.
I need to do this. I'm taking this way. I'm not coming to this, or I'm just going to chill.
Exactly.
Don't forget the I. So like she was saying, concerned about losing myself.
Yeah.
Don't forget the I when you always don't forget the I when you're so focused on the we.
Exactly.
That's tongue twister.
Oh yeah. Okay, I was unclear at first. Thank you for clarifying that. But the I, so when you say the I, it's like, remember when you said, well, I still want to do such and such, right? That wasn't a we thing. Or it started as a we thing. Sometimes things start as a we thing, and then I say, I'm not going. But you should still go.
Okay.
And you're like, okay, well, I'm going to go. I'm going to still do this thing. I'm going to still enjoy. Because a lot of times, what we'll do when we get in relationships is we believe that sometimes we make assumptions too, right? We believe our partner has an expectation for us to do certain things. But my biggest expectation, this is not just in my relationship. This is my expectation of my friends. This is my expectation of family. I expect you to take care of you first. If you know me for a day, you know I will put my phone on D&D and 2 and 2. 2 and 2. I will cut my phone off. I will say no. I will decline calls. That's part of my self-care regimen, though. Because I'm not always in the head space. I'm not always in the emotional space. I want to be fully present for you. That's how much I understand me. That's how much I understand me. So self-love is about hitting decline when my best friend calls. Because I'm not in that space right now. I can't give you what I want to give you and what I should give you, because I may not be in the space of loving me fully. Or maybe I'm charging up. The same way we have to walk away and put our phones on the charger. I have to walk away from people. I have to walk away from things and recharge. I have to do the same thing while I'm in a relationship. That doesn't change. I started doing this prior to Marcus. So when I got with Marcus, nothing changed. Except for, okay, now I have to consider I'm in this relationship. So I have to let him know. I have to make him aware of these things. But we have to charge ourselves first. Charge yourself with the good spring water.
That good Lord. That good water.
Yeah.
Oh. So.
That was a lot, huh?
Yeah, you put an hour in there, boy. I tell you, that heaviness is, and it's already 8 o'clock. I didn't realize it was that late because it was a lot of information. And when we was talking about that topic, I was thinking to myself, this might be a short night, but there was a lot of stuff, a permanent information. A lot of good information that need to come out, and there's a lot of reflection that, like, okay, I'm telling my experience now, like, I need to do that. I need to be focused more on that. I need the I.
Mm-hmm.
By nature, I'm very giving. Very giving. But I have to get the I. I have to get my cup back right.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, because I feel better. I thought I felt good before, but I think I feel better.
Yep.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Giving is good,
mm-hmm.
when you got it to give.
And you said at some point, I'm just used to saying I'm happy. I'm used to saying I'm good. But if you're a giver, you really got to take care of yourself. Because when you're giving, how you refilling? When you're giving, what are you doing to get yourself back to the max capacity? So we will give and give and give and give. And for those who vocalize it, they'll become frustrated. They'll become angry because they've been giving and nothing's coming back. But our expectation for other people to fill us up versus us filling us up, that's what's messing us up sometimes.
It kind of feels like you're trying to take a road trip, but only putting $10 worth of gas in your car. And you got to keep trying to put the $10 in the gas. So you're stopping and you never get anywhere because you're constantly stopping because you're only putting $10 worth of gas in there.
Exactly. That's a good analogy because you're putting $10 worth of gas, you run out, then you go put $10 more in there, then you run out. So you're constantly like, just fill me up to yourself. Yourself.
You know, and if you say like the cell phone recharger, if I only charge it 20%, I'm not going to make it through the day. So if I'm not fully charging myself, I'm looking at how can I make it through life. And I'm thinking like, because it's such a conflict of me wanting to give instead of receiving. I don't want to make this mistake and make things as easy. Tell somebody's easy. It's not going to be easy because you it's like a positive negative going at it. So it's opposites.
Yeah,
but it's how you deal with it.
Exactly. So when Shamika said, the one thing I'm concerned about is losing myself in a relationship when I get in one. And when you say, well, I'm in fear of what will happen if I don't give or if I don't do this, or I'm in fear of what could happen if this happens. That's the thing, like, those are things, that's the awareness, right? So that's like the first step. That's the awareness. Okay, I noticed this. Now what do I have to do? I got to do the work.
No, when you're in that box and you be in that box alone, you don't realize how small that box is. So at this time, we're trying to break out that box and see how big the world is, and that's what it's coming down to.
Yep. And
there's so many steps to doing this. You just can't say like the Jack in the Box. You just can't wind it up and pop out. It's so many little gears to this to make this happen. And that's
so journal, and you can plan. So in the journal, a lot of times I put short-term goals, I put long-term goals. How can you get to a place where, we oftentimes think it's going to take me forever to get there. It's going to take you forever to get there because you said it, one. And second, because it stayed in your head. What happens in our brain? We get how many thoughts a day? So every day you keep having these thoughts and it's fleeting. Yeah. The thought is fleeting. So it rapidly moves through your brain. When you put it on paper, it has somewhere to go. That's movement. Writing it in the journal is movement.
And I have something sitting by my bed. By the time I get to the bed, it unfleeted. So I need to be more mindful of that.
Proactive, yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I had to start doing? And I'll share this with you all too. And we're gonna release you all because we went a little over tonight. Sorry. I'm respectful of people's time.
Don't release them, babe. Don't release them.
But I used to have to put a alarm on my phone. So with anything that I've tried to do under like, okay, this is going to be, you have to create this habit here by doing it. So I would set alarms for myself. Journal time that would go off at 7:15 in the evening. My day would be winding down, but not completely done. And I'm spending 10, maybe 15 minutes journaling. It's still fresh in my head. Can I journal the next day about the previous day? No, because so many thoughts have went through my head already for the next day. And as I get older, it's even harder. So, with that being said, do you have any closing words?
Yeah, I'm getting older too. And good night.
Thank y'all for tuning in. I hope that this was helpful tonight. I know this was a little bit different than normal, and I know we already have our Tuesday nights with Shy, but this was something that I really wanted to hit on and like really delve into this, because so many of us, and when I say us and I say we, because I'm in that category.
Me too.
I'm in the category. I don't have it all together. There are days where I'm a solid 9, and there are days I'm a 5. And I'm like, ooh, I'm struggling again to get back up to the 10. But I know what to do now, because I've been practicing this for a while. So I know if I'm at a 5 and I got to try to get up the hill, okay, these are the things I might need to focus on. D&D needs to go on a little bit longer. I had my phone on D&D for 3 weeks straight. I did, didn't I?
Yeah, I forget you have it on, because I'm in your favorites. I get through.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize your phone didn't ring.
So, I mean, you do what you need to do. Figure out what works for you. Because for some people, they don't need to do that. Some people can have their phone on, but they need to go to bed earlier. Or they need to jog before bed. Whatever it is, like Marcus said earlier, you can customize it. I know the list says certain things, but customize it to you. What's specific to you? They have learned how to play a guitar on the list. I'm not going to learn how to play a guitar. But I learned how to crochet a few years ago. I watched a YouTube video and learned how to do spray painting on a dresser. So you do what is comfortable and fulfilling for you. That helps you to have more self-love for yourself. So, we appreciate you all. Go love on yourself some more, so that you are the healthiest by yourself, and you can be the healthiest with someone else.
Give them the good water.
Give them the spring good water. That good spanks of water. All right, y'all. Until next time. Peace.